Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Chris, and you're watching Hot Take Hockey. Today, we're going to be looking at the top 5 worst Peter Chiarelli trades, obviously, in his career. Before I get into it, though, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new, and leave your comments and thoughts down below in the comment section. We read all your comments, and we'll probably reply to most of them. So get down there if you have anything to say. But other than that, seeing as the trade deadline is coming up shortly, this is the time for teams to start acquiring players and start getting ready for a long spring. We're going to look at the worst trades Peter Chiarelli's ever made, and we're going to rank them 1 to 5 or 5 to 1. So 5 being, pretty bad still, but not the worst. And obviously 1 is going to be his worst ever trade. So we're just going to get into it, I guess. So coming in at number 5, we have Brett Connolly to the Boston Bruins, obviously, from the Tampa Bay Lightning for 2 second-round picks, one of which was in 2015 and one of which was in 2016. So after being eliminated by the Montreal Canadiens in the second round of the 2014 playoffs, the Boston Bruins were obviously desperate to get back into the playoffs and hopefully reach their 3rd Stanley Cup final in the last 5 years. However, on trade deadline day, Peter Chiarelli made 3 trades to help the Bruins basically cement a playoff spot. But most notably of these 3 trades, obviously, is Brett Connolly, who was a 6th overall pick in 2010 by the Lightning. And, they were just the Bruins were just looking for some scoring depth, someone to get them a few more goals. Because that year, David Pastrnak still wasn't really in the picture. And, at the time, it seemed like an okay move. So Connolly, he'd only play 5 games. He registered 2 points in his first, I believe it was his first game against the Red Wings. He put up 2 assists, but that's it for that season, as he got injured, and the Bruins would miss the playoffs for the first time since 2007, and they also broke a record, unbelievably. They broke the record for the highest amount of points for a team to not make the playoffs with 96. Brett Connolly would then play the entire 2015-16 season after, and he would put up 25 points in 71 games. But he didn't really ever seem to find his role in Boston, and he was eventually signed by the Washington Capitals. And, he looks a lot more comfortable in Washington. And he has his name on the Stanley Cup, so good for him, I guess. But as in terms of Peter Chiarelli, giving away 2 second-round picks for Brett Connolly was a pretty bad trade. And seeing as the second round in 2015 and 2016 had the likes of Sebastian Aho, Anthony Chiarelli, Alex DeBrincat, they're all among notable second round picks so far that have come out of those 2 drafts. So a little bit frustrating to see. Obviously, those weren't the picks that were chosen because of the Brett Connolly deal, but those are the players that did go, and perhaps the Bruins could have picked up some of them if Brett Connolly wasn't acquired. Coming in at number 4, we have Brad Boyes for Dennis Wideman. This one was actually a little while ago. We're going back more than 10 years now. This was in the 2006-2007 season. Peter Chiarelli traded forward Brad Boyes to the St. Louis Blues in return for Dennis Wideman, obviously a defenseman with a right-handed shot. Although Wideman wasn't exactly horrible for the Bruins, he didn't exactly live up to expectations either, and he was part of that Bruins team that lost Game 7 on home ice to the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2009 playoffs. And then he was also part of that team who had that reverse sweep against the Philadelphia Flyers, obviously after being up 3-0 in the series and 3-0 in Game 7. The Bruins were unable to make the conference finals. And then the season after, obviously, he was shipped off to Florida, Dennis Wideman. And they would actually get some good players for Dennis Wideman. 2 important players in Gregory Campbell and Nathan Horton, who were crucial for that 2011 Cup run. But obviously timing didn't really work out for Dennis Wideman, as he leaves Boston and they win the Cup that season. But in terms of the trade, Brad Boyes left Boston, and he was an immediate hit in St. Louis. He recorded 4 straight 40-point-plus seasons and 43 goals in his first full season, and a career-high 72 points in the season after. So basically, Chiarelli traded away a very productive winger for an average-at-best defenseman. A little bit frustrating again. That one was a little while longer ago, but still a bad trade nonetheless. Number 3, we have Johnny Boychuk for 2 second-round picks and 1 conditional third. This is very similar to the Brett Connolly trade. The only difference is Johnny Boychuk was much better, and Johnny Boychuk should never have been traded. And it was no question that he wasn't a great acquisition by Peter Chiarelli in 2008 when he was traded to the Colorado Avalanche, when he was traded from the Colorado Avalanche to the Boston Bruins in return for Matt Hendricks. He was a hard-hitting right-handed defenseman with a massive shot and would put his body on the line night after night. He scored tons of big playoff goals, huge hits, incredible physical presence, and he got his name on the cup in the end in 2011. But following the 2014 playoff exit to the Montreal Canadiens, Johnny Boychuk was traded by Peter Chiarelli, of course, to the New York Islanders for almost the exact same return as Brett Connolly. 2 second-round picks in 2015 and 2016, and a conditional third. Regardless of what these picks turned into, it's pretty obvious that immediately after the trade, the Bruins struggled. They missed the playoffs in 2 straight seasons. And it was pretty clear they were missing a right-handed defenseman that they could rely on, just a solid defensive defenseman. And, they didn't have that. And it was pretty clear that they hadn't really, from 2014, so after they traded Boychuk, until 2017, really, until Charlie McAvoy was discovered and ready for the NHL, they didn't really have that right-handed guy. And Charlie McAvoy, still as good as he is, he's no Johnny Boychuk. And when I say that, obviously I don't mean in terms of skill or anything. I just mean by presence and what he offers to the team. But this is still one of the worst trades for the Bruins. A lot of Bruins fans, including myself, thought Dennis Seidenberg should have been traded instead with his injuries and his age. But Peter Chiarelli thought it was a good idea to give Johnny Boychuk away for 2 picks. So not very good for him. Number 2, and this is where, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, you might want to look away. This is one of the most frustrating trades for me to talk about because it is the infamous Tyler Seguin deal of the summer of 2013. After falling 2 games short of a second Stanley Cup in 3 years, Peter Chiarelli made one of the worst moves in his career and probably one of the worst moves in the Boston Bruins franchise history. When Tyler Seguin had been acquired before the 2010-11 season for Phil Kessel, he was good. As a rookie, he was very good. He was very pivotal in the Bruins getting through to the Stanley Cup final. Obviously, he had a very good few games in the conference finals against the Tampa Bay Lightning, scoring 2 goals in 1 game. Picked up another couple goals. He was huge. He was a really good injection of pace and energy. And without him, I don't think the Bruins win that cup. But after first round exit to the Washington Capitals in 2012, which he was still pretty big in that series, he scored the goal that forced a Game 7 in overtime. The Bruins played 22 games in the following playoffs against, obviously, the Leafs, the Rangers, the Penguins, and then obviously the Blackhawks, who they lost to in 6 games. So in the total of 22 games that they played in those playoffs, Seguin would only record just 1 goal and 3 points. But it was kind of hard to blame him. I mean, he was playing with the likes of Daniel Pye, Chris Kelly, even Kaspers Dogovins. If you don't know who that is, that's a perfect example. But Peter Chiarelli thought it would be a great idea to basically send Tyler Seguin and Rich Peverley, and then Ryan Button, who God knows where he is, though, to the Dallas Stars in return for Louis Eriksson, Joe Morrow, Riley Smith, and Matt Frazier. And as of 2017, the Bruins have nothing left to show for it. It's all gone. Every piece of that trade no longer belongs to the Boston Bruins. Nothing. Jimmy Hayes, I believe, was the last piece of that trade, and he was traded in 2017. So he's gone. Basically, Tyler Seguin has put up 429 points since he was traded. So he's basically hit 70-plus points in every single season that he's played for the Dallas Stars. And that's as of January 21st, 2019. And basically, it's frustrating because Tyler Seguin, I know there's the whole attitude issue and whatever. But, it's at the end of the day, it's not about what I mean, I know he represents the Boston Bruins off the ice too, but if you want success as an organization, sometimes you have to just suck it up. And it was a horrible move by the management of the Boston Bruins to let Tyler Seguin go. And it'll be remembered forever. But unfortunately for Peter Chiarelli, and fortunately for Boston Bruins fans, this isn't even the worst trade he's ever made. So coming in at number 1, the worst trade Peter Chiarelli has ever made in his career. You already know what it is. You knew what it was before you even clicked on this video. You didn't even have to know what this video was about to know what Peter Chiarelli's worst ever trade is. The deal is 1-for-1. Bob McKenzie tweeted this out June 29th, 2016, and the hockey world was stunned. How Peter Chiarelli traded Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, and that was it. That was it. Adam Larson in return for Taylor Hall. The New Jersey Devils must have been when they got off the phone for that trade call, they must have been laughing. They must have been absolutely hysterical. Like they must have been like, this is too good to be true. There's no way this has just happened. Adam Larson, don't get me wrong, he's a decent defenseman. But to trade him for Taylor Hall, the first overall pick in 2010, by the way, Peter Chiarelli has traded the first 2 overall picks from that draft in 2 horrible trades. But anyways, you just can't trade Taylor Hall for Adam Larson. It doesn't make any sense, especially when you have one of the best young talents ever in hockey history coming up through your ranks. I don't get it. A fun fact, though, this was the same day that PK Subban was traded for Shea Weber, which is it was a crazy day. That's all I remember. Definitely in terms of off-season days in hockey, probably one of the most eventful. But if we look at numbers, I mean, Taylor Hall's first season in New Jersey was the 2016-17 season. Obviously, that was a tough year for New Jersey, and they ended up, with that first overall pick, taking Nico Hischier. But Taylor Hall put up 53 points, which wasn't even that bad. New team, new environment, new place, he's done pretty well there. But then the next season, obviously last season, 17-18, 93 points, Hart Trophy, 39 goals, most valuable player in the league. He had that massive point streak. I don't remember how far it got. It was in the 20s somewhere, though, mid-20s point streak during the season. Carried the Devils into the playoffs. I know they got bounced first round, but it was still incredible for that team to make the playoffs. And Taylor Hall was absolutely leading from the front. And when you look at it, Adam Larson hasn't hit 20 points yet in a season for the Oilers. And I know he's a defenseman and he's not supposed to be putting up points, but he hasn't even put 20 points up for the Oilers. I mean, if he's playing 80 games a season, you expect him to at least contribute a little bit from the back end, especially when you're giving up Taylor Hall, one of the most productive wingers in the league. To make things worse, too, I mean, right now, Adam Larson's minus 13, and the Oilers are looking for scoring help for Connor McDavid. And who would be a better winger to play alongside Connor McDavid, or at least in the team, than Taylor Hall? I mean, Chiarelli, obviously, he didn't know this at the time, but obviously the draft was actually a few days before this trade, and the Oilers selected Jesse Puljujarvi with the 4th overall pick. Obviously, the 2016 entry draft, some notable defensemen that were taken after Puljujarvi: Mikhail Sergachev, Charlie McAvoy, Jake Bean, and Dante Fabro. The Oilers could probably use one of those guys, or 2 or 3, or probably all 4. So if you're an Oilers fan, my condolences, but this is probably one of the worst trades I've ever seen in the recent era of the NHL. And it's, when you look at some of the pieces now they could have traded for it a few years ago, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jordan Eberle, the list goes on and on. They definitely could have gotten Adam Larson for a much better value than Taylor Hall. But, that's what it is. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, all these trades, really, it's hindsight, right? Hindsight's 20/20. And it seems pretty obvious that Peter Chiarelli has made some terrible moves at the time, but maybe it seemed like a great idea. But probably not. Awful trades. Peter Chiarelli, don't know how he still has a job. We'll see what goes on, though. Maybe he'll make another stupid trade. If I have to add another trade to this list in a few years from Peter Chiarelli, I give up. But hopefully he learns from his mistakes. Hopefully Edmonton Oilers fans aren't left with, distraught. Hopefully you guys are okay. But anyways, guys, that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below what your thoughts are. Maybe there's a few trades I could have put in here that aren't in here. You could look at the Strome-Eberle trade, I mean, for what it's worth. But other than that, guys, subscribe if you're new. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Again, comment down below. I'll read all your comments. We appreciate your feedback, guys. We're on the road to 2.5K and then above and beyond after that. So hopefully you have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.